homage, Shakyamuni Buddha, Manjushri, wisdom, homage to root masters. The profound Dharma is rarely seen in ages. See here, no Tathagata's meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings, generate supreme bodhicitta. Next, we will study the words of my perfect teacher together. Currently, we are discussing the proper way to listen to the Dharma, specifically how to eliminate the three faults of the Dharma vessel. Brief summary done. Now, we can say that this is the detailed explanation of the above three faults. Just as the Indian master Dampa Rinpoche also once said, Indian Dampa Sangye, one could say, perhaps, was a very renowned, highly respected, and influential, great, accomplished master in the history of Tibetan Buddhism. According to various historical records and documented accounts, it is believed that he may have come to Tibet as many as 5 separate times. Some Tibetan historical accounts say that he lived for over 500 years. There are such accounts as well. According to some Chinese Buddhist historical records, he manifested parinirvana in Vajrasattva at Mount Wutai. It is said he entered Vajrasattva without abandoning his physical body. I have read historical accounts before. In any case, he was widely recognized as the highly esteemed and celebrated founder of the Prajna tradition in Tibet, known for his profound influence. Dampa Sangye's renowned and truly profound knowledge of medicine, as well as his profound instructions on prajna emptiness and the Prajna tradition, are numerous. The Venerable One said this: when listening to Dharma, be like a wild animal hearing sound. When contemplating, be like a northerner shearing wool. When meditating, be like a fool, savoring the taste. When practicing, be like a hungry cow eating grass. When achieving realization, be like the sun emerging as clouds disperse. In this section, you will find that a total of 5 different analogies are provided, each designed to help illustrate and clarify the main concepts being discussed. They illustrate listening to the Dharma, contemplating the Dharma, and practicing the Dharma, carrying out the Dharma, and finally attaining realization. These are crucial. In fact, as you may already know, many different Dharma instruction texts and teachings often talk about the view, the practice, and the fruition. This is, in essence, the same principle. At the very beginning, one must expound the view and listen to teachings, because correct view truly arises through hearing the teachings. When we are born in this world as children, do we possess the true right view of the Dharma? Absolutely not. Except for a very few individuals, such as the reincarnated Tulkus of great masters who can truly recall their past lives. Just ordinary people simply, at the beginning, don't just talk about the Buddhist view. They don't even really understand some of the basic principles of the world. Therefore, much of the right view significantly depends on the teachings of qualified spiritual teachers. Only after hearing these profound teachings can right view arise within our own mental continuum. All of you present here truly are indeed in this world. Amidst so many complex fields of knowledge and theories, among all this vast and diverse knowledge that we have come across and explored, we have been able to encounter the profound wisdom of the Dharma, which continues to guide and inspire us, which should be the result of the merit and positive karma accumulated in our past lives. Otherwise, it truly is very rare and difficult. I often reflect on this myself. Sometimes, when I often go to the Xinhua bookstore, all kinds of worldly books are right there in front of my eyes. At such times, I think to myself, among all this knowledge, Buddhism is truly the greatest. But if I didn't have karmic connections, among so many teachers, how could I have truly encountered such a Buddhist master? Sometimes I truly feel so very deeply gratified and happy in my heart. I feel that among all the knowledge in the world, what I possess now, to use modern terms, simply is the most scientific, the most comprehensive, and the most perfect theory, absolutely in every respect. I have devoted my entire life's energy and time to this, but it is also extremely worthwhile and very meaningful. Therefore, we should first listen to the Dharma. When listening to the Dharma, be like a wild animal hearing sound. This will be explained in detail below. Then, when contemplating, after you have listened to any teaching from a master, you must also carefully contemplate and reflect on the true meaning of the Dharma, just like people from the North do in their own way. As Patrul Rinpoche said, the North, for example, people in Yushu, Qinghai, usually shear their sheep, most often in preparation for the warmer spring season each year, whether it's a lamb or an adult sheep, all the wool on its body, especially in the beautiful spring. All the old thick wool is carefully and completely cut off with sharp scissors, making sure every bit is removed. When they shear, they don't leave any wool whatsoever on the front or back legs. There is no such habit. As a rule, they shear it completely off. In the same way, when considering the meaning of Dharma, there is nothing to accept or reject in the Master's teaching. E.g., if teaching was on human life's value, then all the analogies and numbers related to the preciousness of human life, or the causes and results that make it so rare, and so on, all of these should be contemplated one by one. Because the Dharma is like a very beautifully sweet, delicious, and appealing candy, wherever you taste it, there is sweetness. It can't be like people's discriminating thoughts. Where part of what the Master teaches today is considered worth contemplating, another part is left for further observation, and yet another part is discarded, caused by a discriminating mind. Therefore, we should take all the contents of the teachings and repeatedly contemplate them carefully ourselves. This is the second analogy. Then, when we meditate, we should be like a fool tasting the flavor of food. For example, some fools, or those who are unable to speak in certain situations, he ate something really sour, sweet, and spicy. They have truly and completely tasted its rich, distinctive, and deeply memorable flavor. At that moment, he definitely, without a doubt, has that sensation like a mute person eating candy. We should have this kind of experience as well. Therefore, when we practice, we should truly take the time to taste its unique flavor and appreciate it. Human life is so rare. If thinking how rare life is, you sit with eyes closed or simply sit there for a bit without thinking about anything, this is of no use. You should reflect on just how rare and precious human life is. You contemplate this over and over until you finally feel something. People often say, find the feeling, find the sensation. Only when you truly, genuinely find that feeling have you tasted the flavor of the Dharma. When practicing Dharma now, first reflect. Without reflection, you can't feel it. But if you only contemplate things superficially, that's still simply not enough. You must go incredibly deep to really and truly savor its exquisite and unforgettable taste. This applies to every principle in Buddhism. Not to mention the very high states such as Mahamudra or Dzogchen. Let's set those aside for now. In preliminary practices such as teachings on impermanence of life or the principles of karma, cause and effect, every teaching, as long as you truly and deeply savor it in your heart and mind and thoughtfully contemplate it with care, you should be able to truly experience its original, absolutely exquisite and unique flavor. So when practicing, you should do so in this way for best results. Putting into practice, since you have already carefully considered things for some time now it's time to act about the value of life if you think about it, and your heart tastes it. Feeling that's enough, that's not how it should be. During the process of actual practice, you must carry it out properly and truthfully. And when you do it, you must absolutely have a strong sense of motivation in order to succeed. Just like the example we mentioned earlier, a hungry yak, upon finally finding some fresh grass in a wide open field, it will eat every single bit of it, making sure not to miss anything at all, carefully consuming everything until nothing is left. In the same way, when we practice the Dharma now, whether it's the preciousness of human life or the impermanence of life, every Dharma teaching we have indeed discussed and contemplated should be put into practice through our actual actions in our daily lives. we must also personally carry it out and directly engage in the practice. To get results, attaining the result doesn't mean achieving the state of an arhat or Buddhahood. That's not what it means. Every practice ultimately leads to a certain result. When you attain the result, it's not something vague or unclear, nor is it something that you can't quite manage to put into words. It's really not like that at all. Consider the impermanence of life. When you have truly developed a firm understanding of impermanence in your heart, every posture, walking, standing, sitting, lying, all is impermanent. All phenomena in the world have no lasting significance. All exaggerations and doubts are dispelled. It's like the warm, softly shining sun, slowly and gently, gradually emerging from behind the clouds, softly radiating brilliant light. It's very clear. There's no sense of vagueness or confusion. Some of us, when we practice, because we haven't yet fully developed the necessary conditions of listening, contemplation, and practice beforehand, when we meditate, our visualization is unclear. Dharma practice, when result, it still feels vague and unclear, as if you're lost in fog and clouds. That means the result has not truly manifested yet. It simply has not fully appeared. The 5 stages of Buddhist practice are explained through 5 different analogies. In the words of my perfect teacher, every sentence and analogy should carry a very profound and significant meaning. If we, as dedicated practitioners, gradually take the time to carefully and patiently, thoroughly understand each principle, and after truly understanding them, if you carefully contemplate them in your heart, your actions will almost inevitably begin to change. So this time, when teaching the words of my perfect teacher, I want to discuss it in more detail. Though my wisdom is limited in the process of my own previous study and practical experience, as well as my ongoing practice and learning, every principle has deeply touched me. I can say that every single word and sentence has been integrated into my heart. If I shared everything now, due to my own level, language, and other factors, such as circumstances, it's difficult to empty it all. But I think that if we all contemplate together, sometimes it might really help to open up new ways of thinking. We study together. In some situations, it may also sometimes be helpful for our understanding if we take a little extra time to think things. So this is explained using 5 analogies. But here we focus on listening to the Dharma. When listening to the Dharma, you must be attentive. This is the point. The other 4 analogies are not discussed in detail here. This means when you listen to the Dharma, you should listen like a wild animal listening to a sound. How does a wild animal react to sound? Wild animals are fond of the sound of the pipa. Even if a hunter shoots a poisoned arrow nearby, the animal doesn't notice. It still listens with calm, steady focus. Generally speaking, when wild animals in particular happen to hear the beautiful and melodious sound of the pipa, they tend to, in fact, have a habit of really very much enjoying it. There's also this saying, in ancient times, some very skilled, highly trained and experienced hunters would play some music for the animal while holding a poisoned arrow and then shoot and kill it. There are such accounts as well. In any case, when it hears that kind of sound, it just keeps listening with complete focus and attention in its heart. It doesn't get distracted, nor does it run away. The level of concentration it demonstrates is so intense and remarkable that it is genuinely difficult, if not nearly impossible, to accurately capture or express just how focused it is using mere words alone. So through this analogy here, we should essentially understand that in this context, in the process of listening to the Dharma, we should also strive to achieve this. Unable to control oneself, with hair standing on end and tears streaming down the face, joining both hands in prayer and listening intently. When we are listening to the Buddha's teachings, in fact, his behavior and attitude are very important. You must do this, even in front of the Guru, or now when the Guru's words are spoken aloud with deep reverence, are transmitted to your ears through various means. You must have an extremely devout, deeply respectful, and truly pure faith, one that is unwavering and sincere. This is very important, because when you truly possess such a rare, extraordinary, and deeply devout faith, a faith that is unwavering and sincere, your actions and your attitude will certainly reflect it as well. Some people never listened to the Dharma before. When they first meet a guru and hear the guru expound Buddha's teachings, they feel as if they have truly obtained the rare and precious nectar, the very essence of immortality. One could say their hair stands on end, their eyes fill with tears, and they are absorbed. They will definitely put their palms together in reverence and listen respectfully and attentively. For many people, you can tell from their actions, their gaze, and the way they sit. From his various expressions, we can understand whether this person has confidence. In fact, actually, whenever any spiritual guru or teacher teaches or expounds upon any Dharma, we must always conduct ourselves in this way. Otherwise, it will show in our attitude. Every time you attend a teaching, if you do so reluctantly, or if you doze off, or have a particularly unhappy, distant look in your eyes, even just for a moment, or if they insist on quietly hiding away in a corner where the teacher simply can't see them at all. Sometimes, due to various reasons related to the temple hall, they have no choice but to hide. But sometimes, honestly, there's really no need to hide each and every single day. It's not like you're a thief. Logically speaking, if all the conditions are met, you should face the teacher with a smile and greet them and listen with a very joyful, cheerful, and happy attitude and expression. In this way, the teachings given by some teachers become much easier for students to accept. Actually, the relationship between teachers and students is like this as well. Sometimes when we visit schools and see teachers giving lectures, just by looking at the students' attitudes, you can tell that some students definitely won't learn anything. You can see that they're either not sitting properly in their seats or just gazing outside the window. And when they look at the teacher, it's always with a particularly hostile or contemptuous expression. This is, without a doubt, indeed, the teacher's knowledge. It's still really very difficult to get it into your heart. By using worldly examples, we can also illustrate the same principle. When giving teachings or lectures, your focus and posture are extremely important. Because when listening to the Dharma, it's not just people who show respect. In fact, many non-human beings in this world, they too are very respectful toward those who listen to the Buddha's teachings. I remember that in the Buddhist scripture known as the Sutra of Unprecedented Causes, which is a well-known and respected text, there is a story that goes like this. The scripture describes many sacred merits of listening to the Dharma. One of the verses actually goes like this. By truly listening and opening oneself to the teachings, one is able to recognize and gradually let go of actions and thoughts that do not align with Dharma. Through this attentive process, a person moves. Sages respectfully serve those who listen, and so do the gods. By listening to the Dharma, we abandon all unwholesome actions, and it enables us to reach the deathless state of liberation. Wherever someone is listening to the Dharma with attention, those in the world who possess remarkable virtue, for example, wise and venerable sages, and greatly respected Brahmins, they're also extremely respectful. Even deities come to listen to the Dharma. When we perform virtuous deeds, generally celestial beings are proud and do not come. But when someone is listening to the Dharma, even the gods, such as those from the heavens, come to respectfully listen in front of the listener. Therefore, as is stated in the well-known Buddhist scripture called Samantabhadra's Aspiration to Noble Deeds, which offers guidance on virtuous actions and is often referenced for heavenly dragons, yakshas, kumhandas, as well as humans and non-humans alike, all of these beings, whether they dwell in the heavens, on the earth, or in other realms, are included and addressed here. Generally speaking, many lamas in Tibetan Buddhism, as a rule, are practicing monks. When they begin to give teachings, must recite this verse first. Dragons, yakshas, kumhandas, juandodam mayaganandang, zuavagenye changnamgye, tan jagadada gechudan, do proclaim the Dharma in all sounds. They recite it once. Many lamas do, but since I do not truly possess the full qualities of a lama, I do not dare to recite it like that. Here it says that one must listen attentively, with focus. This is very important. Indeed, here, as we have mentioned before, we have given examples Just like today, there are music fans and internet addicts in the world. There are many, many people who are obsessed. We call ourselves Dharma enthusiasts. After hearing the Dharma, you truly and deeply become immersed in it. Teacher talk, and without realizing it, you have already entered the mysterious world described by the teacher. It is important that your mind should remain focused at all times. Only then can you truly benefit from the Dharma. The Bodhisattva Shastra also says, focus your ears carefully, paying close attention to every sound you hear. Keep your mind respectful and open, free from judgment or distraction. Listen with all your heart, truly embracing each word and feeling as you connect with the speaker. This means that your ear must be attentive. Your mind should carefully remember all the Dharma teachings being explained. And how should the mind remember them? By listening with genuine respect and consideration, with every thought and every attitude, in every interaction towards others. When listening and receiving the teachings, you must have a respectful and devout mind. Try your best to really eliminate all kinds of distracting and scattered thoughts. During this period of 1 or 2 hours, it's possible not to think of other matters. Be sure not to really bring a lot of other concerns into this setting. That is the point being made. After all, even if your body is among those listening to the Dharma, your mind will be filled with scattered thoughts, and your mouth may open the hidden door to idle chatter. Chattering nonsense while looking around absentmindedly, this is being inattentive. All of these behaviors are such inappropriate actions. You should listen with full concentration. Otherwise, a few individuals, although physically present, in fact, among those listening to the Dharma, sitting among the crowd and appearing on the surface, to be listening properly and respectfully, if their minds are distracted, perhaps, and not focused, their bodies will also, in many cases, tend to display or exhibit some forms of improper or inappropriate behaviors. But no matter what, even though the body is sitting among those listening to the Dharma, the mind is constantly wandering, restless, and often thinking all sorts of random thoughts filled with distractions from moment to moment. Person present, mind elsewhere. They don't think about the Dharma as they should, but instead think about many things they shouldn't. Just like what Zaga Rinpoche used to say, during a single class, the mind travels all over the world. By the time the class is over, the entire dream world has been toured, and then the mind returns. When teacher ends class, not a single thing the teacher taught has been remembered. At that moment, all the dreams and fantasies in your mind have already been thought through completely. This is simply unreasonable. You should be thinking about the meaning of the Dharma. People with heavy karmic end up daydreaming and thinking about things during class. This happens. For some, perhaps it's just a manifestation or simply an appearance, like Changyang Gyatso in the past, for example. Changyang Gyatso said that when he tried to recall his guru's face, which he should have remembered, he just couldn't picture it. But the face of his lover, which he shouldn't have been thinking about, always appeared vividly before his eyes. Some of Changyang Gyatso's songs appear to be worldly love songs on the surface, but some of them actually resonate deeply and profoundly with the mindset of ordinary people in a very real and relatable way. He also directly spoke about all kinds of worldly afflictions. On the surface, people all, at that time, because of his life experiences, there was also a mysterious aspect to him. In fact, his spiritual songs have even been passed down to this day. People from many different and diverse cultures have, over the years, drawn different kinds of benefit and advantage from them. People who are greedy or attached to emotions in the secular world, he also uses this to protect himself. There are also some practitioners who have adopted some of his teachings. He said, let me think for a moment if you follow. How exactly did he phrase it? I'm trying to remember, but I've completely forgotten the way he put it. How would you express it in Chinese? Never mind, maybe it's okay, that's all right. No. If one turns heart to learning, reaching Buddhahood is easy, right? If you think about it in this way, even achieving the state of Buddhahood in this very life is without a doubt absolutely truly possible. These are the exact words that he spoke, and this is precisely what he said during that moment. So many scattered and distracting thoughts should be restrained as much as possible while listening to the teachings. It is very important that you do not talk, especially during class, because speaking can distract both yourself and others. Here it is explained in another tone. open door to hidden treasure of Chiu, because once someone starts gossiping or speaking frivolously, they in fact tend to become especially, even exceptionally, remarkably talkative and eloquent. But if you ask them about Buddhist principles, they can't say a single word. It's as if they're under a vow of silence. Such people absolutely must not speak during class. If they do, it will indeed destroy the virtuous roots of themselves and many others, because everyone is expected to listen attentively to the teacher's instructions. If someone nearby starts talking, it breaks the transmission and people can't hear the Dharma teachings. Moreover, this person also creates terrible negative karma, such as being reborn as a parrot or other unfortunate destinies. So we must always keep in mind that while we are listening to the Dharma, our conduct must be proper and follow the teachings. Nowadays, most people living in cities are gradually, increasingly learning appropriate behavior when listening to Dharma. In the past, I saw people in some places who had never heard the Dharma before for the first time, and they always felt as if it was just an entirely ordinary public meeting, nothing out of the usual. When some Dharma teachers were giving teachings, they wouldn't even observe the most basic decorum. It looked especially pitiable, but carefully correcting each issue one by one was also quite troublesome. Back in 91, when I went out to a place located in the province of Sichuan, China, about 100 people gathered together. They came, every single person displayed all sorts of faults in their behavior, as well as in their use of Dharma instruments, especially in these aspects. So it was impossible to address each one individually, and at the time I truly felt quite disappointed. But recently, we have been using various methods. People promote Buddhism, especially the proper conduct for listening to the Dharma in Tibetan Buddhism. It is made very clear in the Buddhist scriptures and in the Vinaya. Anyone who has studied the precepts understands this very well. So after that, one can tell conduct listening to Dharma, oh, this person's practice must be quite good. When listening to the Dharma, all of their actions are proper and in accordance with the teachings. You can see this just by observing their behavior, and you could even infer that, in fact, perhaps they have generated bodhicitta in their heart or has developed a pure view of the Mahayana Vajrayana teachings. It can be said this way. From now on, we should always do our very best to diligently and consistently carry out these proper and appropriate actions. While hearing the Dharma, reciting sutras and chanting mantras, all other virtuous activities set aside, and we focus on listening intently. As mentioned earlier, during the period of listening to the Dharma, that is, while you are carefully listening to the teachings, some improper behaviors, such as idly chatting with others, or simply standing around while listening to the teachings, or leaving in the middle of the teaching and breaking the transmission at will, or just walking around or even eating something in the middle of the session. All these kinds of improper behaviors must be eliminated. Even virtuous practices that we usually perform, such as reciting mantras or chanting the Buddha's name, as well as holding a mala or a prayer wheel in your hand and so on. Although these actions do have some merit and virtue while listening to the Dharma, since it is extremely important, the merit of listening to the Dharma far surpasses reciting a mantra or chanting the Buddha's name. These things simply cannot compare to it, not even in a million ways. That's why, for this reason, during the time of listening to the Dharma, all of these activities in Tibet, some villagers who don't understand the Dharma, when a Dharma teacher is giving a teaching, they seem to think that they are being very focused by just quietly holding a prayer wheel the whole time, listening to the teaching while spinning the prayer wheel at the same time. But this is not appropriate. Spinning a prayer wheel once brings great merit. But at that time, your mind should really be focused. All the masters and great monks have taught this. Then you should put down your prayer beads. Some people, when the Dharma is being taught, feel that this time shouldn't be wasted. So they keep their mouths moving quietly and softly, reciting all the while in a steady, gentle rhythm, gently, not making any sound. They recite. This is inappropriate. At that time, if you're holding a prayer book or holding scriptures or mantras, this shows that the person is ignorant and doesn't know how to listen to Dharma. If you truly understand the proper and correct way to listen to the Dharma, you'll realize that listening to the Dharma actually far surpasses these other merits. At that time, you really don't need to do anything else. There was Once an old Khenpo in the past, when he was teaching the words of my perfect teacher, he also said that although he had recited several 100 million mantras in his lifetime, he was not our venerable precious Guru Jigme Phuntsok's disciple. He said he recited hundreds of millions of mantras now. What he felt confident about was hearing Dharma teachings. He felt that this merit was what he could rely on the most. At death or in future lives, the greatest and most reliable merit he had was having listened to the Dharma. Even though reciting hundreds of millions of mantras does bring merit, but this was not what he relied on the most in his approach. Indeed, some people recite mantras, but because they don't really understand the weight of virtue and non-virtue, the foundation of study and thinking is relatively weak. I think the reason is, including in our institute, I have seen this before, a very small number of people think that reciting mantras is very important at that time. They listen to teachings while reciting mantras or spinning prayer wheels at the same exact time. All of these are not allowed. In the future, when attending any teaching, unless the teacher has given permission, like reciting lineage prayers, when your mind is not focused and you need to understand the teachings, there are permissions to recite mantras. This is in Tibetan Buddhism too. But except these cases, when a Dharma teacher is giving any teaching, you must be completely and thoroughly attentive, paying careful and focused attention at all times, remaining fully present. I've even seen some people in Han regions who sit on the sofa gently holding a prayer wheel and broadcast the teacher's lecture on the TV right in front of us, thinking that prayer beads left hand, prayer wheel right hand, watching the TV with their eyes and listening to the sound with their ears, thinking all six senses already received the Dharma, but I don't think that's important. When attending a teaching, you should ignore other matters, including when watching TV. If you truly want to receive the teaching at that time, you must set aside everything else completely. Then, with single-minded focus, you read the Dharma text while listening. This is an absolutely very proper way to practice. Some people don't look at the Dharma text, and that's also unreasonable. Listening to Dharma, generally, the teacher explains every word and every sentence to you. Explaining, unless you can recite all the Dharma teachings fluently from memory, it's a different story. But generally speaking, ordinary people are still quite unfamiliar with the Dharma teachings. So you should read the book yourself while listening to the teacher's lecture. There are moments during a lesson when you might find yourself looking at the teacher, perhaps to better understand what they are saying or to follow along. After listening, you should make sure to steadfastly and clearly remember the Dharma teachings, keeping them always in your heart. After listening, it's not enough to have just heard it. You need to truly understand and absorb what was said. If it goes in one ear and out the other, then it's all gone. I have listened to it all truly. But after listening, if you haven't remembered a single word or a single scriptural reference, that's not acceptable either. Moreover, what you remember should be put into practice in your daily life, and you should regularly and consistently practice it in real life. Just as Shakyamuni Buddha himself also said, I teach you the practical and effective methods of liberation, but always remember that true liberation ultimately depends on yourself. Listening to the Dharma is indeed very important. Any teacher, if he truly wants to help and guide his disciples with genuine care at every single step along the way, the most effective approach is to guide them by teaching the Dharma, as this helps them understand the true path and find wisdom in their lives. Of course, there are other cases, though they are extremely rare. For example, among the disciples of the Kagyu lineage, Marpa and Milarepa, let him continue to work hard. And in the end, the master revealed the mind's nature with teachings. Such cases are indeed very rare and generally not praised by others. It should be said that the relationship and communication between all teachers and disciples should be based on the Dharma, and this is very important. Teacher must teach, and the disciple should apply it in their life. This is the merit of relying on a teacher. These are the benefits of relying on a teacher, not only for being a disciple and relying on an ordinary teacher in this way, also to Master Shakyamuni Buddha. He is the compassionate, wise, and benevolent protector of all sentient beings in the 3,000 great thousand worlds. He also did not use other methods such as showing miracles or benefiting sentient beings through other means. He did not do so. The way he benefited sentient beings was by turning the wheel of Dharma. Turning the wheel of Dharma 3 times is the way to benefit sentient beings. Our teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, I have already taught you the skillful means for liberation. Now, liberation absolutely depends on you. Liberation truly relies on your own ability. If you do not make an effort yourself, if you do not practice diligently, even though I am a fully accomplished Buddha, it will be of no use. There is nothing I can do. So everyone must thoroughly understand and truly grasp this method. The Buddha is the sole refuge of the three realms, but for beings, the true way he guides and liberates others is by teaching the Dharma. Now, the Bodhisattva also said, liberation truly depends on oneself. No one else can genuinely assist or help you in this important journey. Self-liberate. If others truly and genuinely wish to pull you up or help take you safely across, that is impossible. No matter how virtuous a spiritual teacher may be, they cannot do it either. Throughout the cycle of samsara, it means coming and going by oneself. There was once a very famous Chinese Buddhist nun named Master Yuanzhao. When she unexpectedly passed away, her heart remained intact, which was quite renowned. She once said a phrase, self-coming, self-going, self-samadhi, self-cultivating, self-realizing, self-vajra. There is such a saying, and its meaning, in fact, can also be interpreted or understood in this particular way. By cultivating and realizing yourself, you can attain the Vajra fruit of Buddhahood, and through practice, you can achieve enlightenment. It's not like, now that I rely on you, my venerable master, in any way, I hand everything over to you, whether it's my living expenses, my body, or even my realization truly. Everything is entrusted to you. Back then, Marpa did not agree to such a request either. So in reality, nowadays, there are many masters who accept disciples, and this is truly admirable. But why do you take on new disciples? You really should be thinking about helping them. It's not about taking on a disciple so that they can fetch water for me, carry my bag, or bring me things. If that's the purpose, then that's not what being a disciple truly means. In reality, if you wish to accept disciples, it should be through the Dharma. I think this is truly excellent. Otherwise, other kinds of relationships do not necessarily constitute a teacher-disciple relationship. A master teaches the Dharma to disciples, which means guiding them on how to listen to and practice the teachings, how to abandon evil and embrace good, and how to put these into practice in their lives. This is the duty and conduct of a master in every circumstance. When a master accepts a disciple, it is certainly with the intent of helping the disciple. So how exactly can a master help a disciple? There are a few great masters. He makes his disciples work diligently and consistently every single day. One day, perhaps to make a strong point or out of frustration, the teacher might even go so far as to take off their own shoe and, in a surprising gesture, slap the disciple with it, leaving a lasting impression. Could the disciple attain enlightenment at that moment? Such actions are found only among a very few accomplished masters. But generally speaking, as a master, one sees that disciples are quite pitiable. They understand neither Dharma nor worldly or spiritual matters. Therefore, the very first and only way to guide a disciple is to teach them how to properly listen to the Dharma. When listening to the Dharma, they should not wear hats or shoes. They should listen carefully and properly. They should avoid the 3 faults and the 6 defilements and so on. Explain rules of Dharma listening. Then how to practice. First, they should begin with the preliminary practices, not with the main practices. Because the disciple doesn't understand, and when they hear others say the main practices are complete, disciple wants start practices. Therefore, the master should have them start with the preliminary practices. Teach them to abandon evil and cultivate virtue, to eliminate the 10 non-virtuous actions, how to practice virtuous deeds and how to cultivate bodhicitta. Explain each one. After explaining all this, your genuine and sincere reliance on the master will in fact truly and indeed have a significant effect. Some disciples have often relied on their master for over 10 or even 20 years. Every day they follow him around carrying a bag and running after their teacher. But the teacher has never once given them a single teaching, such as abandon all evil, practice all good. It's really a pity. Perhaps the teacher is unable to teach these teachings. Every day it's just, you build a temple for me, you build a stupa for me. You go herd the yaks for me, do this and that. Every single day the disciples are made to do these things. It's just like how landlords used to treat their slaves, using them and making them work every day. But this is an irresponsible way to behave. Mentioned, there are few masters with hidden intentions. As ordinary people, we can't guess the deep meaning behind their actions. Generally, in the lineage of Shakyamuni Buddha, when a master accepts disciples, it should always be done properly and in accordance with the Dharma. I hope many of our Dharma teachers here, when you go out to different parts of the world in the future, in the process of spreading the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings, you shouldn't set I cut your hair for you and I give you a Dharma name, and from then on, I acknowledge you as my disciple. You acknowledge me as teacher. With that, we have transmitted the Dharma between us. And from then on, we have already established a very solid master-disciple relationship. You can't offend me, otherwise you are a vow breaker. Don't use this kind of approach. If not a single teaching has been transmitted, what vow is there to break? Nowadays, there are all sorts of strange and bizarre things in society. So when in the process of welcoming and accepting disciples, a true disciple actually, in fact, you should only become a master after you have taught the Dharma to others. At that point, just as Sun Wukong said, I believe that calling you master is, in this context, entirely appropriate and fitting. Would you agree? This is about the teacher, and next it talks about the disciple. As a disciple, you must always keep in mind at all times and never forget all the teachings imparted by your teacher. Furthermore, you should put them into practice, that is, actually cultivate them. As a disciple, nothing else is important. You should never forget these truly profound teachings that your teacher has spoken of. Day and night, at every moment, remember teacher's teachings, exoteric or esoteric. These profound aspects of the Dharma, which are essential to understand, must absolutely be remembered. Because as a disciple, you see, truly, if you haven't truly remembered the Dharma in your heart, then nothing else really matters at all. So truly, sometimes I often think and reflect the immense merit and profound benefit that the Venerable Jigme Phuntsok has generously bestowed upon countless devoted Buddhists is truly inconceivable indeed, utterly beyond imagination. We have already come to understand the Dharma, because nowadays many people absolutely do not understand these connections. So as a disciple, nothing else is important at all. In front of the teacher, we should still recognize that we have learned some Dharma, and moreover, we should put the teachings into practice. At every moment in our lives, we should always strive to do our best and make a conscious effort to cultivate diligently, understanding the importance of persistence and dedication in our daily actions. To practice the teachings imparted by the Guru, if one takes the Dharma teachings from the Guru and casts them aside, not keeping them in mind, although there may be a little merit from hearing the Dharma, one cannot grasp a single drop of the meaning of the Dharma words. From this perspective, it is in essence virtually almost no different, for all practical purposes, from never having heard the Dharma at all. Here, if it is the opposite, and the Guru has expounded such profound Dharma essentials, if, while listening to the Dharma, whether due to their own afflictions or simply not understanding, the disciple does not recall the Guru's Dharma teachings at all, and completely ignores and casts aside all of them without hesitation, abandoning everything, if that's the case, then although one does receive a small amount of merit from hearing the Dharma in the Guru's presence, as it is said, this kind of merit is not only possessed by ordinary humans, it also includes some worldly beings, such as animals. For example, swallows, or little dogs and cats. Any animal that happens to be among the group listening to the Dharma at that time, they too receive some merit from hearing the Dharma. But as for truly gaining any real understanding of the meaning of Buddhism, there is none at all. Perhaps you gain just a tiny bit, but as soon as you step outside and leave the Dharma hall, you'll notice that it almost immediately and quite noticeably fades away. Just like red hot iron, for example, turns black as soon as it is removed from the fire. So during the process when the Guru is teaching at that particular moment, one should realize how rare and precious this is, and treat every word and sentence from the Guru accordingly. Just like in the past, Patrul Rinpoche and Khenpo Sodargye and many great monks and masters in Han Chinese regions who relied on their teachers for a long time, according to their pure perception, the very first thing they would absolutely think was the Guru truly is no different from the Buddha, and they had this kind of faith. And then the teachings given by the Guru are extremely rare and precious. With this understanding, one should do their utmost to remember all of the Guru's teachings wholeheartedly. If you truly, really cannot remember them in your heart, you can also, if necessary, write them down somewhere safe. In the past, some Dharma friends at the Institute would carefully record everything each Guru taught onto old cassette tapes. By the time they left the Institute, they would have several bags full of tapes. This shows respect for hearing the Dharma. because they truly couldn't remember it themselves. Not at all. They had to let the tape recorder remember it for them. This is also simply one method. But indeed, during the process of listening to the Dharma, one should know how valuable the teachings are. With this sense of rarity, you can remember all these teachings. Otherwise, it's quite obvious from one's behavior in daily life that as soon as class is over, what was that guru talking about? It just goes on and on. If only we could finish earlier and get some rest. If you have this kind of persistent annoyance in your heart, you really won't be able to cherish it either. So it should be said that if you don't listen attentively and earnestly, there are still some shortcomings. It says here that it's almost no different from never having heard the Dharma at all. There are still some merits to listening to the Dharma, but from the more comprehensive perspective of Buddhist benefit, as understood in Buddhism, the most fundamental thing about relying on a guru is that you learn some Dharma. This is very important. For example, I often think about the relationship between teacher and student, especially in my daily life. It's not because the teacher acknowledges you as their student doesn't serve any purpose. For example, my teacher could be a famous person, but I honestly didn't learn a single word from this teacher. Even if I say my teacher is Einstein, it actually does not mean anything at all, not in any real sense. If this teacher truly skillfully helps me learn knowledge, then it's worthwhile to build this kind of relationship. So when a guru accepts a disciple, look at this disciple who has really learned some Buddhist knowledge from this guru, and whether some afflictions or troubling thoughts in their own mind have gradually lessened over time, and whether they have noticed that their wisdom and understanding. In this way, the value of relying on a guru is already present. You could say that if you spend days serving the guru, doing things for the guru, but you haven't gained any of the wisdom at all from the guru's mind, then it really doesn't have much meaning. Especially in this degenerate age, it's essential for gurus to widely teach the Dharma, because so many people don't understand the Dharma. If the gurus don't teach, that's also unreasonable. Of course, it's not necessarily required in most cases to have the title of guru. It's also not necessary to have the name of guru. Every lay practitioner and monastic has this responsibility. Because the Dharma is our wish-fulfilling jewel for everyone, it's not just the responsibility of a few gurus. It's not like that. In fact, the Dharma is something that everyone who protects it has an inescapable responsibility for. So when the conditions are right, even if you haven't yet become an Acharya or received the official title of Acharya, when the opportunity arises in different situations, even if it's just meeting a beggar on the street, even when you give him even just a dime, say, recite Amitabha Buddha for me. If you don't, I absolutely won't give it to you. This too is a way to spread the Dharma, because usually with other high monks, great masters, or high-ranking officials, you don't have the opportunity to turn the wheel of Dharma for them. Beggars are very vulnerable, so with this particular person, even if you speak to him a bit forcefully, he won't resist. This too, in its own way, is a way of spreading the Dharma. So in our daily lives, we must hold a sense of respect and a protective attitude toward the wish-fulfilling jewel of the Dharma, and also have the strong intention to spread it. This is very important to make it clear why this matters. Even if you still remember the teachings you've heard, if they are mixed together with afflictive emotions, you still cannot truly enter the genuine Dharma, not even in the slightest, in any way. Just now, we said that first you should listen to the Dharma and then remember it. But in the process of remembering, you absolutely must not mix in any afflictive emotions. The meaning above can also be illustrated with a worldly analogy. For example, carefully ladling soup into a bowl. If the bowl is turned upside down, all the soup will spill out behind it, and not a single drop will remain inside. Even if the bowl isn't upside down, but has holes in it, all the soup you pour in will leak out, and it won't be able to hold anything. If the bowl is neither upside down nor has any holes, but there is a lot of poison stuck inside the bowl, then the soup you pour in will be poisonous when you eat it, which is frightening. So all of these faults must absolutely be eliminated. When we listen to the Dharma in our daily lives, We must not only focus, but also remember the Dharma teachings given by the teacher. But most importantly, during the process of listening to the Dharma, do not let various afflictions or negative motives and intentions arise. If you do have them, then it's generally better not to participate at all. For example, if you simply listen to the Dharma in order to make money or to gain a certain reputation, then your purpose for listening to the Dharma is already mixed with a lot of poison. No matter who consumes poison, it is always very dangerous. Therefore, just like the incomparable Khenpo Rinpoche in Tibetan Buddhism is the founder of the Dagpo Kagyu lineage, which is a prominent school in Kagyu tradition. Among the disciples in the Milarepa lineage, he is an exceptionally great, accomplished practitioner. He said this: if one does not practice according to the Dharma, the true Dharma instead becomes the cause for falling into lower realms. But if one practices properly and genuinely, then of course the true Dharma becomes. However, some people, due to their lack of wisdom and insufficient faith, regard the true Dharma as an object, but do not practice it or follow teachings. On the contrary, they engage with it in an unwholesome or improper way. Originally, the Buddha Dharma is like a wish-fulfilling jewel, but some people have started to sell Buddhist scriptures. Some people rely on the Dharma to commit all kinds of negative actions. In this way, they fall into lower realms because of the Dharma. It is mentioned in the Avatamsaka Sutra. When a cow drinks water, it turns into milk, but when a snake drinks water, it turns into poison. The Avatamsaka Sutra conveys this meaning that in this world, cows, horses, and some other animals, after drinking water, turn it into milk or other fluids. But poisonous snakes are different. After they drink water, it all turns into harmful poison, which harms many sentient beings. Therefore, when we practice virtuous Dharma, we must do so properly and in accordance with the truth. We must never uphold it through improper or unlawful means. Otherwise, if you develop wrong views about your own teacher or hold prejudices against fellow practitioners and listen to the Dharma with such attitudes, in this way it is truly unreasonable. This is not only a teaching found in Tibetan Buddhism, but in Chinese Buddhism. For example, Master Jije in the past also said, to give rise to bodhicitta for the sake of fame and gain is the cause of the three lower realms. The three lower realms are the three evil destinies. Seeking bodhicitta, generating bodhicitta is a good thing. But in order to truly gain fame and wealth, it also becomes a cause for rebirth in the three evil destinies. This was said by Master Jize and also by Master Ui. A tiny deviation leads to a vast separation like heaven and earth. Even the finest nectar can turn into poison. It is made clear even the finest nectar can turn into poison. The Dharma seems like ambrosia, like pure nectar. It is exceptionally pure and absolutely perfect, but if some people do not use it properly in their daily lives, it can actually become poison and very dangerous. Therefore, in our daily practice, typically, we must ensure that virtuous actions are carried through from beginning to end. Now, when some people attend teachings, I also emphasize this point, especially in the cities, particularly in urban areas. It's not easy for so many lay practitioners to gather together, but in such settings, we should do our best to avoid any improper conduct. For example, using the Dharma as a means to conduct business and make money, or relying on the study of Dharma as an excuse to engage in the negative behaviors common among people today, such as greed, anger, jealousy, and all sorts of actions, must not occur there. Because the brief time listening to the Dharma should be fully, at the beginning, there is bodhicitta, at the end, dedication, and in the middle, what is spoken of is the supreme action free from reference. The action free from reference. Did Lama Chukyi Rinpoche say this? Either, while listening, you focus your mind and listen attentively. This is also simply called right action without conditions, or right view and concentration, RV-SAM. Then no matter what kind of Dharma you are studying or practicing at that time, you do not give rise to other distracting, greedy, or angry thoughts. You simply receive it with a wholesome mindset. This is the supreme action free from reference. So if all three excellences are present when you attend a teaching, it may seem like an hour or two But in reality, you have accomplished something very significant in your life. Therefore, it is also said here, if you have mistaken or deluded thoughts about the Guru or authentic Dharma, then during the process of listening to the Dharma, you are actually engaging in unwholesome actions. Originally, listening to the Dharma is actually a very good thing, but during the process, you might be sitting there constantly resenting the teacher. What is he talking about again? Every single day, it's just another story. I really don't want to listen. Truly, people simply have different capacities. Relying on the Dharma, some people end up creating great negative karma for themselves. It's as if the teacher's giving you Dharma teachings, but each day feels like he's teaching something negative. Those who teach negative things are still full of enthusiasm, but not here. TV news is all about greed, anger, and ignorance. Watching TV, this person is absolutely, truly, extremely happy, smiling from ear to ear, watching with great joy. There is nothing on TV that will lead you to freedom. Yet, when watching TV, he's especially happy. But as soon as he hears the Dharma, he looks at the Dharma teacher with a particularly contemptuous gaze, almost as if he hates them. This shows that karmic forces are manifesting. He's using the authentic Dharma. Truly, it doesn't really matter who it is or which Dharma teacher it is. Everything they say is truly virtuous Dharma. Even if he's an ordinary person, when he is teaching the Dharma, he is like the Buddha's bodhisattvas. A couple of days ago, I spoke about the teachings of Milarepa. It's like this. So there is really no need at all to treat your teacher as a bad person in any way. What he's transmitting to you is virtuous Dharma. He is certainly not teaching you to kill or to steal, no. It's really not like that at all, not in any way. If someone did that, maybe you would actually be quite happy. To have inverted and deluded thoughts about the teacher's true Dharma is also very frightening. And then towards your fellow practitioners, those who share your aspirations and path, you often ridicule and mock them, make sarcastic and cutting remarks, and look down on them with clear disdain. What does this person next to me know? Left is a bad person. Right is too. I hit someone greedy behind someone angry. Everyone is a bad persononi. I am truly remarkable. I must be like a single sandalwood tree among a grove of plantain trees. Thinking so highly of oneself now, this is what we call arrogance. All discriminating thoughts are causes of rebirth in the lower realms. When listening to the Dharma, everyone should know to eliminate arrogance. Whether to all Dharma friends or to all the teachings and teachers, we should maintain a heart of respect and devotion. Therefore, it is absolutely essential to cut off all impure defilements. It's like a container that must be thoroughly cleaned in every way possible. Once it's clean, you can fill it with nectar, medicine, or anything else. But if the container isn't absolutely clean, no matter what you put inside, in the end, it could all ultimately become poisonous food. So before each person listens to the Dharma, Patrul Rinpoche instructs to examine mind streams. Do we have the fault of not truly listening? Is our fault a distracted mind or being disturbed by afflictions? These three major faults are very dangerous, and we must thoroughly cleanse them. Therefore, starting tomorrow, before everyone attends class, look at your Dharma vessel. Has it been cleaned properly? If it hasn't been cleaned, you really should do everything you can and use the towel of right awareness and mindfulness to thoroughly wash and wipe it. Otherwise, even if you listen diligently, if you approach it with negative, deluded thoughts, you may end up creating great negative karma, which is truly not worth it. You must act with proper reasoning and Dharma. All right, we'll stop here for today.
Om